Hi, I'm Nick Nanton, and welcome to Meet the Experts. I've got a great friend of mine here today, Nick Namath, who is a tax resolution attorney. Nick, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about what you do for people, because taxes normally aren't an exciting subject, but it's actually exciting when people get in a problem, how you can help them. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, all my firm does is help people resolve IRS issues. It's the only thing we focus on.
Okay, cool. I think I want to stop there for 1 second, just make sure people understand this, that that is very, very, very important. You don't want to just go to your accountant or to your brother's attorney friend who does real estate law or something, right? You need an expert in this field. Yeah,
anytime you're dealing with an opponent that can take your stuff without going to court, it's in your best interest to have legal representation. I agree with you 100%.
And you probably shouldn't call them yourself, I would guess, either.
No, one of the things I always say is never talk to the IRS unless you have a lawyer either sitting next to you or standing beside you or behind you. It's just, again, too important. You can screw things up and allow them to spiral out of control way too much if you try and handle it on your own.
Very cool. And I know you're a very mission-driven guy. Let's talk a bit about your mission when you're helping people.
Our mission is simple. It's to help alleviate the fear and the stress associated with IRS problems. That's it.
And there probably is a lot of fear and stress. I mean, imagine people haven't filed maybe for 5 months or 5 years or somewhere around there, and they carry a big burden, don't they, when they're like that?
You're exactly right. These people are losing sleep. These people are having marital issues. Every time they hear a car door shut, in front of their house, they're peeking over their shoulder. They're waiting for somebody with a badge to knock on the door.
Yeah. They're living in fear, and you can make that go away.
Yeah, I haven't found a problem we can't solve. And the funny thing, Nick, is I have people tell me within a day of them hiring our firm, it's the first time I've slept in 6 years. Not because we've done anything yet, just knowing somebody is on your side to deal with it.
Awesome. And so if someone's watching this right now, and they're a little worried because they haven't filed for maybe a while, I want them to understand that's probably not in their best interest to wait till tomorrow to call, is it?
No, one of the main reasons you want to go and file is because, first of all, you can't go to jail for owing money. You can't go to jail for owing $10,000, $100,000, $1 million. You go to jail for not filing. That's the crime. So one of the first things you want to do is get the returns filed, and it's one of the first things the government's going to want from us in order to move forward towards a solution anyhow.
So every day you wait, the problem really gets bigger.
Yes.
And you guys, I know you guys do some really unique things the way you work at your firm. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, it's funny. My office tells me that I do the same thing all day long. I walk around saying the exact same thing over and over and over, and that's my job is to keep the IRS as far away as possible from my clients and their assets until we can resolve it with some sort of manageable permanent solution. And with that said, there's 5 ways generally that we solve just about anybody's problem. Sometimes we can actually ride out the storm, Nick. Most people don't realize this, but IRS debt will expire after a certain period of time. So clients that have had these problems going on for a while, sometimes there's certain things we could do just to keep them under the radar, and then sooner or later this debt goes away. Now, if this is a new debt, and there's still 7, 8, 9 years on that statute, obviously that's not going to play into our solution planning strategy. Second way we resolve these things is with a payment plan. Sometimes you just got to pay the money back, but you got to find a manageable way to do it. And that's the tricky part, because if you are scraping to try and find $200 a month and the government thinks you have $2,000 a month, obviously there's a lot of work in there that, to reconcile those two sides. The third way we resolve these things is through a method called an offer and compromise. That's that pennies on the dollar deal you hear on television all the time. It can be done. If you meet certain criteria, we can actually go to the government and say, look, the taxpayer owes $100,000. We'd like to offer to pay $2,500, $500 a month for 5 months, for example. And if they accept it, you're done. You could win the lottery the next morning, and that debt is not coming back. So that's what everybody wants. But again, you got to meet the criteria for it. Sometimes we can use a hardship status. If you don't have any assets that are worth seizing and you're struggling to get through a month with your expenses, sometimes we can get you declared non-collectible and you don't pay anything. And then the last way that we generally use to solve these problems is with a bankruptcy. contrary to popular belief, IRS debt can go away in a bankruptcy. Again, it has to meet certain criteria, but it can go away, and we've resolved hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to the IRS through bankruptcies over the last few years.
Excellent. So there's a bunch of different strategies. Again, and I know these change all the time too, so you absolutely have to work with an expert, someone like you, to handle these things, to make sure it gets handled correctly.
You're exactly right. And the funny thing, sometimes there's 2 or 3 options you have. Sometimes you only have one option, but at least you'll understand why the other options don't work in your case.
Cool. Before we started filming, I heard you say something about there's 3 things you got to know before you talk to the IRS. Would you mind sharing those with our viewers? I think they'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. Let me preface those 3 things by saying, again, I don't recommend anybody talk to the IRS without the lawyer standing beside them. But if you find yourself in a position where you have to, remember these 3 things. The first one is, don't volunteer more information than they're asking you for. If they ask you a question about what did you have for lunch today, tell them what you had for lunch. Don't tell them what the weather is outside. I've seen too many times where people get themselves in trouble talking too much. They have that nervous babble, and it just leads to more questions and more problems. The second thing you absolutely have to remember is to never lie. Always tell the truth. Don't even bend the truth a little bit. IRS problems are complicated enough to try and resolve without the added implications of jail time or some sort of crime by lying to a government official. And the last thing you always want to remember is, if you don't know the answer to a question they're asking you, what should the answer be?
I don't know.
I don't know the answer. It's a perfect, valid answer. Again, I've seen too many times where you're guessing or making things up, and it's just compounding the problem.
Wow, incredible. Good stuff. And so I know there's a lot of people watching this right now who are going to want to contact you today. They want to get the burden off their shoulder. They want help. They need help. How can they find you?
Call my office. Ask for me personally. I'll talk to you when you call up there. The number is 972-484-0-TAX. It's 972-484-0829. Or do it the old-fashioned way. Go to my website, myiRsteam.com.
Awesome. Nick, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.